Hey guys, a couple of people joining, so we'll just wait a couple of minutes until everybody finds their seats. How's everybody doing today? Let us know where you're from. Put it into the chat function. One of the things that you should look at the chat function as well is that when you ask something or put something in there, please change who's going to see that to everyone. So when you go to chat, click the to button there and you'll see there's a drop down. Instead of just sending to host and panelists, click to everyone so that I can see what you're writing. So if I type in here, hi everyone, there we go. So don't be shy, tell us where you're calling in from today. Be interested to see where everybody's from. Looking at the attendee list to see quite a lot of people from Germany, Austria, Cologne, Kölnerin, super. Hi guys, welcome. We'll just, as said, we'll just wait for everybody to get on, and then we'll get going. We'll just give everybody another moment or so. But really happy to have everybody on today, guys. I'm calling in today from Vienna in Austria. I'm clearly not Austrian though. I'm Irish, but I've been living in Austria for 13 years. Wir machen das heute nicht auf Deutsch. We're going to do it in English instead because it's easier for me. But if you have any questions or my English is not easy to understand, please remind me in the chat. I sometimes, when I get excited, tend to talk a little bit quickly. If I'm talking too quickly, you need to remind me and say, Andy, you are talking too quickly. Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you have any questions whatsoever, we will have a couple of minutes at the end for a Q&A. And if you want to ask something or you need something, please pop it into the chat box. On the chat box, please, when you're posting something, make sure that you're sending that message to everyone. You do that by clicking the down button where there's the blue to hosts and panelists. Click down on that and click to everyone so that everyone can see your comment. Okay, guys, a couple more people have joined. Tell us where you're calling in from today, and then we'll get started. Okay, let's get going. So today we're going to be focusing on B2B budgeting and marketing. So we're going to get kicked off now in just a moment. Before we do, let me give you a bit of background for me, who I am, what my experience is, and some of the companies that I've worked with and put together marketing budgets for. I have been in the marketing space, B2B marketing space, for my entire career. I started my career in marketing in 2008. So that's what, 14 years experience in B2B marketing. 10 years of that have been in fast growing tech companies. I've been in a number of different chief marketing officer positions and VP marketing positions. And then right now I'm working with Marmind as a chief marketing officer. And at the same time, I'm also working with a number of other companies in a similar fashion and helping them put together marketing plans, marketing budgets, marketing strategy, etc. So I've seen quite a few B2B marketing budgets in my day, I would say. So I hope that I'll be able to share some of my knowledge with you that you maybe don't have access to already. So let me continue. So before we get started and into the content, I've got a quick poll for you because I want to just distinguish between B2C marketing versus B2B marketing. And because this is important when we start strategizing and when we're putting a plan or a budget together, it's important to know the difference between both of these things. And just for the audience that's on today, I'd be interested to see what people's points of view are here. So we're going to start a poll now. So Peter, who's working away in the background, is just posting a poll. Thank you, Peter. So please answer the question. So B2C versus B2B marketing. Do you think they're basically the same? They're slightly different, but at the end of the day, marketing is just marketing. And 3, they're different practices, but it's hard to transition between the both. So we'll give everybody just a second now to answer this. Can everybody see the poll? Is the first question, because I see that nobody has answered it just yet. Okay. It gets an error. Okay, that is strange. Okay, thanks for telling me, Christiana. Okay, let's do it differently. Okay, so I see that there has been people answering. Thank you for that. So what we're seeing there is that the majority, so 13% say they're basically the same, which is interesting. I would disagree with that, and I'm going to show you why. 27% say slightly different, but marketing is marketing. There is some truth in that, but I'll show you now in a moment as to why probably the answer number 3 here is probably the most correct version, at least in my opinion, and that they're two different practices and it's hard to transition between both. And 60% of the audience have said that's the case. So let's go through like what's the difference between B2B and B2C. So I think we need to start there. So instead of just listen or taking my opinion and what I've seen and my experience, I wanted to take a look at what other experts are saying. So according to HubSpot, who most people know, I guess, HubSpot is a marketing automation tool for B2B marketers. They also have a B2C offering, but mostly based around B2B. They invented the term inbound marketing, if anybody is familiar with that. Basically a tool whereby it offers different marketing automation and things like email landing page build and also reporting, etc. So they see B2B and B2C differing in terms of the audiences and how you communicate to those audiences. Okay, so in B2C, it's very much focused on a transaction. So deliver some content like an ad or an email, and then immediately get that transaction back. You immediately get somebody to come and purchase something from you. Okay. Sales cycle super short in B2C. You can have a 90-second sales cycle if you're lucky, a sales cycle being the amount of time from the first interaction to when somebody actually purchases. Whereas in B2B, you're looking at trying to create a relationship with the companies or the people that you're reaching out to. You're trying to solve a business need or a business problem, and you're trying to create that relationship via many, many touch points over a longer space of time typically. Right? So that longer space of time, as I mentioned, you could be within the B2C space, you could be looking at a 90-second sales cycle, whereas in B2B, you could be focusing on a 90-day sales cycle, right? So it's quite different, right? If we look at this into why this is important and why is it to understand from a budgeting perspective and a planning and strategy perspective, is that in B2C, it's very much low involvement, okay? Whereas B2B, high involvement. So what does high involvement mean? It means that you're going after a much smaller niche. You're typically looking at those accounts in which you want to do business with and then going after those. Whereas in B2C, you might have a segment where you say, okay, our product fits 15-year-old boys that are based in maybe Germany and Austria that are interested in bikes. Show me that entire audience, okay? Whereas in B2B, it's much more targeted, much more niche, okay? Purchasers on the B2B side, you can typically have many purchasers within a B2B environment, and that you need to be selling to maybe 5 to 6 different people. Whereas in a B2C environment, it's typically only one. The buying process is multi-step in B2B versus single step in B2C. As I said, you need to create that relationship in B2B. Therefore, you want to be gathering up as many qualified touch points with accounts as you possibly can. And then, as I said before, sales cycles much shorter in B2C, whereas longer in B2B. And then the sales driver in B2C, recognition and repetition is very important, but relationship is more important in the B2B space. So just to give you just a general overview, just to visualize a little bit, if I was looking at it as a B2C marketer, how I was going to plan to reach out to people or how that acquisition strategy looks, it's very much looking at one person, say here, this is a male, 25 to 32, football fan and price sensitive. Therefore, I'll tailor my content using the technology and tools that I have. For example, with the price sensitivity, I may have a personalization engine, which is then presenting a particular price, which might be interesting to that particular person based on their demographic. I'll then serve a couple of ads, send emails, and then pretty quickly I'll start to see conversions coming through. In the B2B space, typically what you see is a minimum of 6 different buyers on an account, okay? So there's a company called Terminus, and Terminus are an account-based marketing company, and a couple of years back, they released a report based on all of the data that they have from all of the customers that they do business with. They're the pioneers in account-based marketing, so they've got the largest customer base. They did a survey trying to understand how many buyers are on a B2B account-based deal, right? And the minimum amount of people that you need to influence on that deal is 6. So a minimum of 6 people that you need to be creating a relationship with. In this particular example, we'll look at, we've got a chief executive officer, we've got a chief financial officer, a chief marketing officer, a VP of marketing who's probably speaking into the CMO and probably the most influential person if this is a marketing tool that we're trying to sell. Then you might also, if it's a marketing tool that deals with data, you're going to have your head of IT involved, and then also probably the head of security operations, who's also there to make sure that they're following all security protocol that the company has. So that's 6 different people that you need to be interacting with at some point within the buyer journey, right? Across channels, we've got mail or email, we've got ads, we've got trade shows, we've got direct mail pieces, and we've also got a different channel to what you typically see in B2C, multi-layers of sales, okay? In the B2C world, you see that in brick and mortar. So when you go into a store, they'll have salespeople in store. In the B2B world, different, that you could typically have, depending on the type of business, you might have an entry-level sales development rep who's essentially hammering the phones all the time, trying to get some connection, trying to create that relationship. And then when a meeting gets booked with that particular company, it's handed over to an account executive. The account executive will see it all the way through until the deal closes. And then it will typically be handed over to an account manager or a customer success person, right? So very, very different when it comes to the entire commercial experience from a B2C to a B2B perspective. And this is why it's important to understand both when you're looking to put together a budget, okay? So now that we've gone through some of like the background and the building blocks towards understanding like some of the first steps in creating this marketing budget, we want to look at who are the right people that I need to align myself to as a head of marketing when I'm putting together this budget. Okay. So me, I want to be trying to get in front of salespeople, and I also want to be getting in front of finance. Okay. And there's some things that I need to know about in order so that I can start to create the building blocks to be able to give back the numbers that I require. Okay, so first of all, I need to be speaking with our sales team about, okay, what is our current sales cycle? How long does it take from opening a deal to closing a deal? Is it 30 days? Is it 60 days? Is it 90 days? Is it 180 days? Is it 18 months? But I need to understand this because this will determine where I'm going to be placing my money in terms of actually driving leads that are going to be coming in, that are going to be probably a little bit quicker to close, for example, or match that particular sales cycle. Okay. At the same time, I also need to understand from our sales team, what's our average deal size? So when we're selling into a company, what's typically the size of the deal in which we're closing? Okay. Then I need to be matching that back to the overall revenue targets for the organization. This is a mix between sales and finance. And then at the end of the day, what you want to be doing is, and this will get you extra brownie points or extra love maybe from your finance team, is trying to look at your efficiency, okay? Now, on the marketing side, we typically don't focus enough on this, but looking at an efficiency metric, there are plenty of them. In the SaaS world, where I'm based and how my mind works, I typically look at LTV to CAC. So LTV to CAC, and all the Germans are laughing now because of the second part of this, but lifetime value to customer acquisition costs, okay? So this is important because it will show us how efficient we are being with our spend. So all of the money that we're bringing in from a customer, what is that in comparison to how much it actually costs us to get one in? Okay. So when I'm looking at the customer lifetime value to customer acquisition costs, a good sort of general sort of North Star metric that you can look at for that would be 3-to-1. Okay, I'm not going to focus too much on this because this is a little bit of a bonus thing when you go and speak with your finance team, but it's understanding, okay, guys, like what is our customer lifetime value? They will be able to provide you with that. Typically, it is a hard number to try to come up with, but it differs based on organizations and so on. But try to get about 80% as close as you can to that specific value. And then customer acquisition cost, this is an easier one to formulate, but typically the way that I look at it is, and again, it's different across all organizations, but I would look at every single cost to the business that it takes to bring in a specific deal. That includes headcount costs for both sales and marketing, and also looking at any marketing program costs, as well as any additional sales program costs, plus travel costs, etc. Then any technology costs that sales and marketing teams are using as well. You might also want to put a certain percentage of product-based costs in there as well, but that's up to you as an organization. As said, though, we should be chasing a ratio of 3 to 1 here. A 3 to 1 ratio typically means that we're operating efficiently. So when I'm talking to sales, so typically sales and marketing don't align well, although everybody talks about sales and marketing alignment. Only something like 8% of sales and marketing teams are actually aligned. And that's not coming from me, that's coming from Gartner. So Gartner are a large analyst group. What they've been looking at in the past years is interviewing thousands of organizations to understand how aligned their sales and marketing efforts are. And they found that only 8% of all organizations have an aligned sales and marketing function, right? And this here on the right-hand side, this cartoon describes it pretty well. Okay, so what I need from my sales team is I need to understand, okay, what's their sales cycle? As I said to you before, is it 90 days, 30 days, 40 days, whatever it might be? How much are they average selling? Okay, what is the average deal size? What are their revenue targets per region? So if I'm operating in a global environment, I need to understand what the growth rate needs to be in every single region in which we're operating in, because then you're going to have to support that region with marketing efforts. And then typically what I've done as a marketer throughout my career is working together with the sales team, but also to a certain level with the financial team and also with the rest of the C-suite to agree on a percentage that should be sourced from marketing. Okay. Now, this depends on how your organization is set up, etc. I've seen everything from 20% up to 40%, up to 50%, even up to 60 to 70%, just based on how things are structured. If you need some advice on that or it's not clear to you, please reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I know that Peter's going to share my details now with you guys shortly. But if you do need some advice with that, please let me know. I'll be able to help. The most important thing with sales and marketing alignment is that you portray to the sales team that you are there to help them hit their number. In that by them hitting their number, we're hitting our revenue goals as an organization. Okay. And that's the most important step towards actually getting proper alignment, is making sure that they understand that you are there to help. Okay. I often say that marketing opens doors and sales closes them. And there's a lot of truth in that. So let's look at, okay, the next step in our alignment journey is aligning with finance. Okay. So what I need from finance is the customer lifetime value. Then I also need to look at what has been our customer acquisition costs up to now. So looking at last year, for example, 2021, I would say, okay, what's been our overall customer acquisition cost in 2021? What's been the customer lifetime value sort of trend over the past year? And then I'd be looking to try to create the efficiency metric out of that. And the efficiency metric will then drive me in a certain direction to say whether or not I can spend more or less. If we're operating at a 6 to 1 or a 7 to 1 efficiency metric, it shows that we've got some room to start spending a little bit more. If we're operating at a 2 to 1 efficiency metric, then I need to stop spending and get that efficiency back up to 3 to 1. Okay. And the most important thing is why you should be aligning with finance is because they are the holders of the budget. Okay. The most important thing to those in the finance group, though, and many, I guess most marketers, if most people are marketers here on this call, they've probably been in a situation whereby their finance team or people on the C-suite have asked them, I need to see the return on marketing investment. I'm not seeing how with this investment that we're doing is turning into revenue. Okay, so you need to try to match it as best you can or match that journey back so that you're able to show that your marketing that you're spending or the money that you're spending in marketing is actually having an impact on revenue. And I'm going to show you some of this now in terms of how you can do that. And then we're going to get into what we can do from a budgeting perspective. So the first part in this is around creating a predictable model. So ROMI is return on marketing investment, by the way. So there's two different schools of thought when it comes to creating this predictable model. Most people will be familiar with the funnel approach. So bring stuff in at the very top and then it trickles down all the way down to purchases. Okay. Now, this is sort of a traditional model, and there's a new school model, which is account-based marketing, which is you name your accounts first and then you only chase those. I think the reality is that it lies somewhere in the middle. Okay, so there's still some traditional old school stuff going on. There's quite a bit of ABM new school stuff going on. Probably what you should be seeing is in the old model, if you're only doing a traditional old model, you can probably expect 70% of the leads that you're bringing into your website, for example, are going to be trash. So let's say 70% are going to be Mickey Mouse at DonaldDuck.com, and then 30% are qualified. Let's call them marketing qualified leads. They haven't been touched by a salesperson yet, but they're relatively qualified. Okay. Whereas in the ABM space, you're only chasing those accounts that you know you can do business with. So you typically, if you were only doing ABM, you'd expect 70% of quality and 30% of Mickey Mouse at DonaldDuck.com. Right. However, I would say most companies are probably operating somewhere in the middle. So it's somewhere probably around 40% of the stuff that you're bringing in can be seen as qualified. 60% can be seen as maybe trash, or maybe a little bit higher, 50-50. Okay. I think it's important though, if you haven't started to track what you're doing, you should try to define that funnel for yourself. So what is that funnel? I see it as marketing qualified leads, which is just a touch into a qualified account. What's a qualified account? An account that you can do business with. How can you figure out if it's an account that you can do business with? There are many different ways to be able to qualify it based on company size, based on industry, based on location, etc. You just need to define what those things are. Sales qualified lead would then be a meeting. Sales is managing to actually have a qualified touch with them, and then they decided to have a meeting. Then the next stage that I'm looking at there, when the meeting's been booked, there's typically a bit of a dropout between meetings being booked to meetings actually happening and people attending them. Then following those meetings, what I'm going to see is that those meetings turning into opportunities, and then those opportunities eventually then close as won deals. Okay. So I think it's important, if you haven't done this already, you should start doing it. How? So if you don't have the data from before, what you could try to do is try to create the criteria for your business, but then try to apply it to your existing data. If you've got no existing data or don't know how to do it, then you should start to do it from here on in. If you don't know what the benchmarks are, typically people come to me and say, Andy, I don't know what the benchmarks are. What should we be aiming for from a conversion rate perspective? So if you're bringing in MQLs, then you should be expecting around a 7% conversion rate from marketing qualified to sales qualified. Sales qualified to meetings attended, somewhere is about 25%. Meetings booked to meetings attended should be around 70%. And then meetings attended to opportunity around 50% if they're well qualified meetings. And then opportunities to close one around 20%. Okay. Now, one thing I will say is this funnel is good in a way that it will tell you if there are problems existing within the business. So for example, if you're booking meetings and only 20% of those meetings are actually getting attendees, then I'll be asking a question, hey, why? Same goes to if we're booking meetings and people are attending those meetings, but only 5% of people are actually turning into an opportunity, then I'll be asking a question, why? For example, I'd be looking at how the sales team are going through the sales process. Are they selling it in the correct way? Are they actually looking at the problems that the company has? Are they providing the right pricing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So there's many different diagnosing factors that you can look at if you're not hitting those percentages, okay? So let me move on. Next thing is around actually tracking the success once you start spending money. So here's one thing that a lot of people have asked me over the years, attribution. Attribution is a black box. Nobody is ever happy with any attribution model. That's the first thing I want to put out. I've never seen any company that said our attribution modeling is amazing and where everybody's 100% happy with it. The key to attribution that I have found, having implemented many attribution models, is that it's a bit like a good compromise. And in a good compromise, there's always somebody at some point that's unhappy. Okay. So it's like, typically in the attribution model, when I say nobody's happy, it means 1 week sales will be happy with the outcome of an attribution, whereas the second week marketing will be happy with the outcome of the attribution. So there's always somebody unhappy. But at the end of the day, it's just to give us a general overview, to give us an idea if the stuff that we're doing is working. So please don't break your head on attribution. Here's a marketing model or an attribution model that I have used before in the past. Looking at my offline, my marketing programs, breaking them down into offline and online, I'm looking at how strong are each of those different things that I'm doing. So when I say strong, how strong of a touch is that? For example, meeting somebody face-to-face at an event is a stronger touch than somebody downloading an ebook from my website. I think everybody would agree with that. And then looking at the model itself, I've implemented a very simple model before. It's not perfect, but it works. If, for example, on strong touches, for example, events, direct mails, demos, if there's been no sales touches in the past 3 months prior to the touch, then the deal is attributed to that specific touch. Okay, so let's say, for example, somebody meets us at an event Sales team haven't been involved with that person prior to the event. Therefore, it will go back. The source on that deal will then be from the event. Weak touches, for example, downloads, webinars, etc., etc. If there's been no sales touches in the 6 months prior to the touch, the deal is then attributed to that particular touch, okay? Or vice versa, you can change around those different months. For me personally, the best thing that I have found is to have an alignment call between a head of marketing and a head of sales on a weekly basis, looking through each opportunity that's been created that week and getting an understanding of where that has potentially come from. As a marketer, this has been massively helpful to me, helps me understand which channels are working well. It helps also the sales team and the marketing team to get better aligned, because they're discussing what's happening on a level whereby the sales team can say this particular event didn't work or this particular marketing program didn't work, and vice versa, right? So far we've covered an understanding of what B2B versus B2C is, who to align with and what questions to ask, and then also the theory behind tracking return on marketing investment, okay? So is everybody following me so far? Any questions so far? Is everything clear? I guess so. No comments in the chat, so I guess we're good to keep going. Good. Thanks, Ulf. Thanks, Beatrice. Perfect. Okay, we're going to keep going. So we're going to do another poll, okay? Because we're just about to get started into the marketing process and some steps in which you can put in place. Let's take a look at this. So Peter, if you'd be so kind, thank you. So how strong is your marketing budgeting process? So either it's utter chaos, a complete mess. It's there, but, you know, sort of. It's still a bit of a mess, though. It's somewhat strong. Or it's very well defined and it's working really, really well. And to be honest, if you're on this webinar and it's well defined and working really well, I'd ask the question, why are you on this webinar? But let's give people just a moment to answer this. And then we'll see what the answers are. We'll give everybody just another moment. Yeah, Daniel, don't worry though, Daniel. It's chaos for everyone. There has to be a certain level of chaos. Otherwise, nothing ever happens. The question is, how much chaos, right? I'm glad I was able to help, Dino. Okay, so the results are now in. So 18% of people say it's utter chaos. 65%, which is the majority, is saying it's there, sort of. Somewhat strong is 24%, and it's very well defined and working. Interesting. I'm interested to hear about these very well defined and working ones, and if I'll be able to offer anything that's of interest to you guys today. But let's see. So yeah, okay. Let's move on that. So let's take a look at the budgeting process, and I've broken this down into 5 steps. And let's start with step 1. Okay, so with this, by the way, guys, I'm going to go a little bit off piste here, by the way. I'm going to start sharing a spreadsheet as well, just to show you how I'm plugging different numbers in where and how I'm creating the model. So if things get broken in between, don't blame me, blame the tech. But, you know, typically whenever I do this in a webinar, what happens is everything breaks, but we'll see how we get on. Okay, so I'm going to go out of full presentation mode here. Actually, give me just a moment. Actually, I'm going to go through this first. So first of all, what I'm going to do is we're going to go into a real life model. So I've picked a company, Culligan Water. My name is Andy Culligan. They are no relation of me. They're a large multinational based out of the US that sell water filtration systems. Okay, so let's take a look at Culligan. By the way, none of these numbers are from Culligan. This is completely me making them up. The only thing that's actually real on this is the logo and the name of the company, okay? And then also somewhat what they do, okay? But let's take a look at Culligan. In 2021, Culligan Water sold $17 million worth of water filtration systems in the US, UK, and Germany, okay? In 2022, based off the success in 2021, they want to sell $20 million worth in US, UK, and Germany, okay? They've given us the breakdown. I've gone and spoken with my sales team. Okay, sales team, where is the regional breakdown? Where do we need to be growing? The US has said, we're taking 50% of that quota. The UK is saying 20 because it's a growth region. And in Germany is their second biggest market. They're saying we're going to offer back with 30%. Okay. Also, the average contract value is 250K per system. And this gives us ongoing yearly services of 100K per annum on top of that. So we're looking at the overall initial payment is 250K. And then every corresponding year after that, we're looking at 100K. Okay. The current LTV to CAC, we've done our bit of homework here with the finance team, is 6 to 1. They're looking at a 90-day sales cycle, so 3-month sales cycle. They built out a marketing funnel in 2020, and this consists of marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, meetings, opportunities, and new revenue. However, the CFO has been a little bit cryptic with me. She's not giving me the information that I require in order to start plugging specific monetary numbers against stuff that I want to do. Instead, what she said to me is, okay, Andy, next year we want to grow by 20 million. I need you to tell me how much you need to spend in order to help the sales team get there. And I said, okay, well, I've agreed with the sales team that it's 40% of what you're going to bring in is going to be sourced from marketing activities. Therefore, okay, I'll take the challenge on with my CFO and I'll say, hey, you know what? I'll be able to give you the number that you're looking for, and then we can go further with our negotiations. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is now I'm actually going to get out of full presentation mode. And I'm hoping that everybody can still see my screen. Please confirm that you can still see my screen. Simple comment. Can everybody see my screen? Yeah, sweet. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go into a sheet that I built, and it's just a simple calculator. Okay, this is a simple calculator to be able to start figuring out what our targets need to be, and then based off the targets, then we can start to plug and play into our different channels, and then understand out of those different channels how much money we need to spend. That's how I'm leading forward here. Okay, so we've recognized that our total marketing split, how much are we going to bring in? 40%. Okay. So out of our 40%, what we're going to do is we're going to, this is calculating everything within the marketing funnel here. So what I've done is I've said, okay, new business, we know that we need to be winning 20 million in new business revenue in 2022. Then what I'm looking at is the average revenue that we want, that we're going to be bringing in is 250K. And then that gives me my overall marketing revenue. It's a pretty simple calculator, this, okay? But then where the magic is really happening is down here, okay? So what I want to happen is I want to take this 8 million that we need to be sourcing from marketing and figuring out all of our different, what happens in each different stage of our funnel, okay? So what do I mean by that? So that 8 million, if we divide that by 250K, we see that gives us, we need to be winning about 32 new customers this year. Okay. We know from the data that we have from 2021 that we have a 30% close rate from stuff that we're entering into our pipeline and into closed won, right? So that's a pretty high close rate. 30% is very decent. Okay. I would even question this company and say, hey, maybe bring that down to 25%, but you're opening up more opportunities, which might get a better visibility from the organization, which could help you close more revenue, right? Again, using my model here as a way to sort of figure out, okay, do we have issues within each different stage? But this is a positive thing, 30% close rate, which then gives us our 107 opportunities, okay? What's important here from a marketing perspective, and most marketing teams don't look at this, is the amount of pipeline that we need to be creating, dollar pipeline that we need to be creating in order to close that amount of new business, okay? So what's this value here? So, excuse me, just take a quick drink. We need to be creating almost 27 million in new business pipeline in order to close that amount, okay? Now, why is this number important? Well, it could be that my marketing team decide, hey, you know what? We need to open up 107 opportunities. What I'm going to do is just go and target pretty small companies and get more in that have a quicker sales cycle and get things moving quickly, right? But what you'll find is if our average revenue per account starts to change, what we're seeing is, let's put it in as 200K. It starts to increase the number of opportunities that we need to bring in, right? So let me just change that back. So we see that the number of opportunities are still going to change. The pipeline value doesn't change because it's based off the bottom of the funnel metrics, but it still changes though based on the number of meetings, because our average revenue is going lower. So another area that I'm looking at is the number of meetings that are being completed. And as I said, the sales qualified here is the number of meetings that are getting booked, and a qualified interaction is a marketing qualified lead. We know that we have each of these different levels from our previous data. If you don't have it, I'll send you the benchmarks after this so you have it from the presentation. But this is a nice way to figure out, okay, throughout this year, I need to be creating 3,048 marketing qualified leads. This, by the way, is not exact science. It could work out as 2,000, but what happens is if the conversion rates within the different layers of the funnel get better, then we get better as a business, and then that gets a little bit lower. So maybe it's only 2,000, okay? Or for example, if our average revenue per account goes up, then it changes the model a little bit as well. What I want to be doing is to be able to discuss this with the team in a little bit more detail. I want to be trying to figure this out per quarter and then per month, okay? And then what I'm going to be doing is tracking the team's performance throughout those 2 different periods, okay? So I typically look at it on a quarterly basis, and then also look at it on a monthly basis as well. And this is something that you should be viewing as a marketing team generally anyway. But let me go back into our next stage here. So let me see. So I think I'm just going to go back a few. So actually, I wanted to launch another poll here, because it was actually, as I mentioned before, when we're talking originally about Culligan Water, they have a 6-to-1 LTV to CAC, right? Can you tell me what that indicates? So this is going to be a real question to show me if you guys have been listening or not. So a 6-to-1 lifetime value to customer acquisition cost efficiency metric shows they need to start saving money, they have a bit of room to spend, or they should continue at that same rate. I gave everybody just a moment now to submit these, and then we'll take a look at the answers. Is it working for everybody? And can everybody understand me? Am I speaking slowly enough? Is it working okay with my accent? I'm trying to go as slow as I can, but I do tend to get excited. So if you can't understand me, please tell me. Okay. I'm sorry, Christina. Yeah, Daniel, I'm Irish. Christina's tut me leid. Tut me echt leid. If you have any questions, please feel free. Please feel free to reach out afterwards on LinkedIn. Peter has shared the details, so please do reach out. I'll be happy to have a conversation with you afterwards if you want. So Peter, I think we can close that poll now, mate, and we'll see where we're at. So look at that. Okay, so 21% of people, this is interesting, said that they need to save. So I'm interested to see who those people said. They have room to spend, which is actually a correct answer in that perspective, because there's at a 6-to-1, based on the way that they're looking right now as a business, I would say they have a bit of room to spend. At the same time, I would not tell them to spend too much more than what they already are, because they're only looking to jump from 17 million up to 20 million. So the growth rate is not enormous there. So I would say, okay, let's try to get that LTV to CAC down to maybe 5 and take it from there. And then 7% of people have said they should continue at that rate. And Daniel, all LTV to CAC improvement starts with a Guinness. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm actually drinking water out of a Guinness glass right now. And I'm just after like reinforcing every stereotype that anybody ever thought. Unfortunately, it's water, I know. Okay, so let's move on then and take a look at, okay, what we've already just calculated the funnel. Now what we want to be taking a look at is breaking this down per region. Now remember I said early on that what we want to be doing is, with the sales team, we want to be understanding what's the breakdown per region. And we know, based on what we've been told, is that we've got a 50%, a 20%, and a 30% breakdown from the US, the UK, and Germany, okay? So what I want to be doing is trying to take these numbers here and breaking them down a little bit further, so I understand how much of each do I need to be bringing in for each region, okay? And typically what I'll have is on my marketing team, I'll have somebody that's focused on each one of these regions. So for example, I'll have a US marketer, I'll have a German marketer, I'll have a UK marketer. And as you can see here, what I've done is I've taken 50% of the overall marketing value here, and that's then pumped into our model here for the US. And basically what I've done is I've just replicated this model across the US, across into Germany based on a 30%, and then based on a 20% here for the UK. All right, so pretty straightforward, pretty simple. The only thing that's maybe a little bit complex in actually putting this model together is the conversion rate and actually figuring this out a little bit, and also the formulas here. But this is, this is pretty simple to put together, and we'll give you some good insight. Okay. So next step, what I want to do is I want to start my marketers collaborating. Okay. So as I said at the start of this, I don't want this presentation. My apologies, I'm going back to the start. Give me just a moment. So I want my marketers collaborating with one another. And I said at the start of this is not going to be a product demonstration for Marmind, but there are certain elements of Marmind that can really help with this. Actually, the entire process here Marmind helps with, takes all of the pain out of it. But I just wanted to show you some of the background. One of the things that Marmind does particularly well is enabling that cross-functional communication across the marketing team. So what I've done is here, I've just taken some screenshots from the product and how I would roll this out to my regional marketing effort. I would say, for example, for Germany, I've got Peter Fechter, who's responsible now for my German marketing budget. I need from Peter all of the different events and all of the different activities that he is looking to do in 2022 or 2023. Sorry, I have 2023 here, but it's actually should be for 2022. And I need an overview of those events, for example, to be able to budget effectively. So what does that mean is that when we get to the next stage where we start to plug in numbers, I have a general idea of how many events are going to happen in each region. And then when it gets to it then later on, Peter can then take that information and start to plug it into a very line item focused budget. But we're not there just yet. I just need to be able to get the information back so that I'm able to calculate that final number that I'm going to get back over to my finance guys, along with these are the leads that we're going to bring in from which channel. Okay. The same goes for UK. The same goes for US. All I need to do is basically copy and paste the same question across from the German guy over to the US guy, over to the UK guy, and then I'm able to keep track of everything within one specific space. They're also able to have a look at each other's notes to understand if one is doing that, how can I do it? And then they can communicate back and forth a little bit as well to save me a bit of time as a marketing leader also. Okay. So now that I've actually been speaking with my marketers and they know what the process at hand is, what I want to do is, once I get the information from Peter, for example, for Germany, I want to see, okay, how many different pieces am I going to be doing in different channels throughout the year, and how many leads am I going to be pumping back, or qualified interactions, MQLs, are going to be pumping back through each one of the different channels that I've recognized. So as a marketing team, we've recognized that we do offline and we do online and we do levels of PR, right? And what I'm doing is within the offline channels, my strong channels, as I told you before, I'm breaking them down into what we're planning to do, typically what we've done in the past year, right? So I look at trade events. So trade events, I've looked at the amount of leads that we brought in throughout the last year. The number of events isn't changing wildly. And I know, okay, per event, typically we brought in 30 marketing qualified leads, or sorry, that's per event. And then in the US, then 50, in Germany, 70 in the UK, right? The number of events that I'm looking to bring in across the globe. I think there's something wrong with my formula here. My apologies, I need to fix that up. But then the number of events here is, okay, we know in the US, there are 5 major events that we want to go to. I also know that in the US, it's typically more expensive to go to certain, to do events. Typically in the US, it's cost double or triple what it costs in the UK or in the rest of Europe. Therefore, per event, I'm putting 50K rather than 20K in Germany and the UK. The UK is a little bit more, actually, at 50K as well. And what I'm doing is I'm just working out the number of MQLs that I can be bringing in from each of these different channels. The same goes for an own event. I want to run an event that's for partners, for example. I anticipate to get that amount of people in, and this is how much it's going to cost me per event. And I want to run 3 or 4 per region throughout the year, and then that's going to give me my overall cost. Okay. The same goes for direct mailers. Direct mailers, I know how many I'm going to be sending to, I know how much it's going to cost me per send. It's going to cost $5 or €5 per send. Therefore, it's going to calculate it and give me my overall there, right? I also have a tech that I want to be putting in for direct mail. It's a company called Reach Desk that I do quite a lot of work with. And that's going to cost me that's going to cost me 20K for the year. And then that's going to facilitate all of that, okay? Then from an offline perspective, it gives us everything here. We're able to hammer up all these numbers and it comes to almost 500K for the year, okay? Then I know from an online perspective, where have I been putting my money and where am I planning to put my money? In this case, let's say we want to spend heavy on LinkedIn. We have a general idea because we've been spending on LinkedIn over the past year, and our typical cost per lead on LinkedIn is $180. AdWords, it's $300. Other social things that we're doing is around $300. If you don't know what the cost per lead should be per channel, then you go speak with a marketing expert, go speak with a digital marketer. They'll be able to give you benchmarks for this. You don't have a digital marketer on the team, which I guess most of you do. They'll be able to give you proper benchmarks. And even when you're working together with the likes of LinkedIn, they will give you benchmarks as well. You have an account manager, okay? Again, just figuring out what the total cost is per each of those different channels based on the number of MQLs that we need to be bringing in. And then paid, but not performance. We want to be doing some brand activity as well, stuff that can't be 100% tracked all the way down through the funnel, but it's stuff that we still need to spend money on. And we've estimated a 5K per month on that for things like Facebook and Twitter, for example, maybe even Instagram, things like that. PR, we want to go pretty heavy on PR because last year we did a lot of PR and we got into tier 1 media, which was great, which means that we want to spend around the same as we did last year, around 15K, which gives us about which throughout the year is 180K. And then we've got other organic online channels, right? So channels that are somewhat free. We want to be pumping out as much content as we possibly want or as we possibly can. For example, blog posts and interesting content that's going to get our potential prospects engaged. And we know that to get us there, that's going to cost us about 3K a month. Same goes with customer videos. So stuff that we want to be pumping out to our sales team that's further down the funnel to really get them moving within the deals that they're working in, is to see companies that we're already working with and success stories. It's typically good to do that with video content, right? Typically a video will cost you, if you want it well developed and well designed, it's going to be about 10K. We've got a number of customers that have said that they want to do videos with us. Let's put that at 5 and let's try to get 5 out throughout the space of the year. Then we also want to do some other videos throughout the year, which gives us then a bit of video editing cost per month, which then is around 12K. That whole piece is then going to cost us 62K for the year. And then we want to do stuff with industry experts and so on. So we want to be putting some money against that. So we want to spend about 36K across the year. Then what we're doing is we're taking all the costs, we're adding both of these up here. And I know based on all of the MQLs that need to be brought in, because remember our MQL volumes are matching up with the MQL volumes in the regional breakdown, that our total cost for the year is going to be about 1.3 to 1.4 million. And then our monthly cost is 111K, which gives us our cash flow for our sales team or for our finance guy as well. So with this, what we've done is out of nothing really, out of some just general business targets, business focuses, what we've done is we've come back to our finance team and understood exactly where we want to grow, how much we want to grow by, and being able to say, okay, if we want to be presenting that back from marketing source deals, then this is about the amount of money that we want to be spending. And in this case, I'd be saying somewhere between 1.3 to 1.5 million. And this is where we plan to invest it. These are the different channels. And this is how much we can anticipate to get per channel. Okay. So with that as well, so once you actually have that information done, again, I'm going back to Marmind a little bit, but it is very helpful. You want to be taking that information. You've built your background model, let's say, but you want to be taking that information and putting it into something that's trackable, something that's updating in real time, and that's something that's automating your forecasting to say whether you're overspending, underspending, if you're hitting your lead volume or not hitting your lead volume, are you hitting your MQL volume, are you getting enough meetings? Something that has good visibility across the entire business and can be broken down per region and then pumped into one specific place, okay? So that's where Marmind comes in handy. You'll be able to put it in per line item, etc., and keep an eye on things as you go. So with that, I want to say thank you for listening. And I would like to apologize for the speed at which I've taken this. We've covered a huge amount in such a short space of time. And I know it probably hasn't been easy with my accent, even though people say that they like it. But let's take a look at some questions. So we have 10 minutes left for questions. So Daniel's asked, real life relationship between attribution of success, sales marketing versus OTE percentage of bonus, high-tech industry, Spain and EMEA, if you have the data. So let me just try to reread this question a little bit and see if I understand completely what you mean, Daniel. So relation between attribution of success. So just to confirm, Daniel, you're asking me if there's going to be some issues between, okay, sales guys get 50%. You mean in terms of the OTE, etc.? Is that what you're referring to? Okay, yeah. So look, this is a tricky question. Okay, so I think, and I'll answer it in a way that maybe isn't directly answering your question, but I think it will come around to it. What I'm seeing nowadays is that marketing are typically being paid a lot more than they would have been 10 years ago, okay? Because companies are starting to realize the importance of marketing in the entire demand generation, lead generation function of the business to actually drive revenue, okay? Now, it's taken some time to get around to that. However, I still believe that there's still some work to be done. Of course, salespeople are still going to be the ones that are going to get the OTE, are still going to get more from a closed won business perspective, but there is more of a piece of the pie available to marketers nowadays, not necessarily on the OTE front, although the variable payment is increasing for marketers. It's more so on the base package. So Ulf, so the example data. So let's take a look at, for example, the benchmark data. So that benchmark data is based on my experience of having run this with probably close to 10 to 12 companies. It give or take a couple of percent here or there, and depending what your space you're operating in is, it can depend. But Ulf, tell me which space are you operating in? What industry do you work in? I'll give you just a moment to answer. Okay. So on the agency side, okay, for various industries, yeah, like I think, look, based on those statistics, the benchmarks that I showed you previously, as said, I've taken them mostly from tech companies, especially in the SaaS space. However, they shouldn't wildly change, because if you're looking at your marketing, you should be trying to attract as many companies as possible that you would want to do business with to your site, okay? And those companies should be interacting with your content, and then you should be trying to reach out and bring them back in again to keep on having touch points with you, and then eventually you should be trying to meet with them in order then to bring them down to potentially do business with them. So those particular benchmarks shouldn't vary wildly per industry. I would say this would be good. Do the benchmarks change depending on company size? No, the benchmarks don't change depending on company size. So Beatrice, if you're referring to the company size which you're targeting or the company size that you're working for, can you confirm that for me? Is it based on the companies that you're targeting or the company size that you're working for? Then no, it shouldn't change. Because the conversion rates are just conversion rates. You know, the numbers in terms of how many leads you should be bringing in will change, of course. If you're an SME, you clearly won't have as much budget to be bringing in thousands of leads in comparison to a corporate, but you should be looking at trying to reach at least those conversion rates within the funnel. If you're in the SME space, you might find further down the funnel that the conversion rates are higher, because typically if you're working for an SME, it's a lot of relationship-based business in the beginning anyway. So it might be friends of the founders or people from the network or whatever. So typically bottom of funnel stuff, which is typically done by the sales team, the bottom of funnel number. So for example, opened opportunities to close one, you could be at 60 or 70% just based on pure volume, but also given the fact that you're probably dealing with people that are known to the business, friends of founders, friends of MDs, people within the sales team's network, etc. Sure. Any other questions, guys? Go, Daniel, shoot. Time for one more. That's the same one as before, Daniel, correct? I think that's the same question that we had before, Daniel. Okay, I'll wait for you. Just in the meantime, guys, while Daniel's typing that out, if anybody has any questions that they haven't asked here, and we need to finish up now in a moment, but if there are any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very responsive on LinkedIn, so please feel free to add me. Be happy to have a conversation. Let me know if there's anything else that I can do to help, or if you need any further discussion on those benchmarks or whatever, be happy to take a look with you. Daniel is typing furiously here. Okay, on Ulf's question. Major B2B and B2C tech worldwide firm and cutting edge telco solutions for a country EMEA role. So, all right, hold on. I'm not too sure what the question is, Daniel. Oh, the OTE question. So you're asking, does it matter? So the OTE question, as I said, like OTE is something that you're going to have to do. So when you start at an organization, depending on what their focus is, if they're focused on a marketer that's really, really heavily focused on demand generation and lead generation and getting involved in the entire pipeline generation of a company, then you're going to have to bring up the question around OTE. But at the end of the day, the salesperson is always going to be the person that's going to have the higher percentage OTE. It's just how it works. It's somewhat unfair, perhaps, but it is just the nature of it. But as I said, the base is where you can do most of the negotiating. And if you're working in a tech company, then maybe as well, I'd be looking at negotiating some options as well. So around 20% of what though? So 20% of your entire package should be OTE. So 20% of it should be bonus. Yeah, look, it depends on which level you're coming in at as well. So if you're coming in, let's say mid-management level, I would anticipate something less than that. I would say it's probably somewhere between 10 to 15%. If you're coming in above that, so as let's say, for example, chief marketing officer, VP level, you should be looking for a minimum of that 20 to 25%. But it depends on the type of industry that you're working in. Also, what plays a big role typically in the tech space is our share options and equity. So it's another piece, right? CMO and local country under an EMEA CMO, then that's a tricky question because I don't know what the EMEA CMO is on, and it would depend if you've got a good feeling for what the EMEA CMO is earning, and versus also you need to look at what the culture of the organization towards the marketing function is as well. There's a lot of variables that play a role there. So if they see the marketing function as a real revenue generation function, then it's probably likely that that bonuses will be higher based on results, right? or the percentage breakdown will be higher. If they don't, if they see marketing clearly as only as a support function, I don't know, but my guess would be that they see it somewhere probably around that revenue generating function. Then I think 20% is acceptable in that specific example. Okay, guys, look, it's been a real pleasure. I want to thank you all for coming on today. As said, if you have any questions or if you need anything else, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, and keep an eye out. We'll send out the recording in the next day, and I really appreciate you guys still taking your time out of your day to speak with us today. See you guys.